Sweet, let's get going. Yeah, so we're going to keep on going where we left off doing the TwinStick Shooter thing because that's been on my mind, and that's what I want to do right now. I have been making some progress with the boss fight as well for texturing purposes today, during the day. We'll probably like circle back to that once it's rigged up and stuff. I'm kind of like doing these things in parallel, like this stuff has been done on stream, then I'm in the background working on a boss fight, while I'm also like working on work and videos and everything at the same time. But for now, we're going to go back into the TwinStick Shooter. I have done a little bit of tweaking of things since the last stream. Very minor. You can see they have HP bars now, which is kind of neat. I implemented the interaction system to start this, and we now actually also rotate in the direction that we're moving, unless we're specifically looking in a different direction with the other stick. So this will always like take priority on the direction that we're looking if we're like actively like giving it a look direction. And the moment I let go of the stick, you can see, well, that's actually a bad example. You can see it turns back around to face in the direction that we are moving in. That way it just like flows a little bit better. And they have HP bars now, as well as me myself. I have an HP bar. There's still no like balancing going on. I've changed a couple of things. There's also a bunch of print strings. I've changed a couple of things a little bit, but we'll change a little bit more about all of this in a moment. It is now sampling properly from a data table. So what we have here is you give in a name for the bullet info row in the data table that we want to be sampling from. And then we have this data table which has a bunch of, well, at the moment two, but it's going to have a fair amount of like different bullet info setups. So we have the damage, the speed. I want to add in a rate of fire to this as well. And then I don't know really necessarily what I want to do, but I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to have a bullet info variable on the shooter, like on the TwinStick pawn itself. That is like an edited version of whatever we get through here. Because what I want to do is I want to have like a basic rate of fire. So if you like unlock a new type of bullet or whatever, that might be I'm kind of thinking that might be a bullet that I just want to have like higher fire rate and lower damage, for instance. And then I want both the damage and the fire rate to be like modified by a variable on the player. This is only really relevant for the player, by the way. This doesn't really matter for anything else, because any like NPCs aren't gonna get like upgrades. They just have like their type of bullet, and that's kind of like it. So let's take a look at how we have that code set up, right? Because we have our shoot bullet, which checks our fire allowed at time, and then we set that again, and we set that just by current time plus fire rates. What I think I want to do is I want to go into TwinStick bullets here in the bullet info, and I want to add a fire rates to this as well. We're going to change this to like base. We need to check out the file, that's fine. We want to change this to base damage, and then like U property, edit, anywhere, blueprint, read, write, all that kind of good stuff. Maybe add in the comment that we need there. For this, a float base rate of a fire. Maybe we want to do the same thing with speed. I don't think we need to do the same thing with shot speed necessarily, but I think we want to do that. And then what we want to do in the... I'm going to do this on the board, by the way. Just in case I ever figure that I need that for a enemy. I don't think we will, but you never know. I'm going to put this in protected. View property, blueprint. Add it anywhere. Blueprint read writes. Float damage. Multiplier. View property. Add it anywhere. Blueprint read writes. Float rate of fire multiplier. So this way, what we can do is when we shoot, for which we should have a function. Yes, we do. Instead of doing this by the fire rate, what we do is, I guess, yeah, we do one more thing. Add it anywhere. We do f bullet info. We call that like current bullet info. And then we also make a, does this need to be a U function? I'm going to make this a U function, just in case we end up needing this. On function, yeah, sure. U function, blueprint, callable, void set new bullet info. And that does take in a f name for bullet info name. That is entirely correct, Copilot. Need to check this out, it's fine as well. And there, we do this. Does that actually check out? Yeah, so we get a pointer from that. If that's valid, our current bullet info is deref to that. Otherwise, no bullet info found. Yeah, so that makes sense. So now we have a member variable for the bullet info. We have a function to get a new. It should be new, not net. Let me just fix that in here as well real quick. And then on begin play, what we do is we just use whatever the hell, somewhere in here I think we have bullet info name, right? Yeah, so we just use this, change that name to default bullet info table name, and then on begin play we just set new bullet info with that, so that it properly like sets that up. And then I guess we don't need to do this anymore, because that was just getting it from the data table every time we shoot, which also seems like it might be wasteful. I don't know necessarily, but we're just going to do like current bullet info. That's a good question. Is that what we're going to do? Do I want to update that struct itself any given time? I don't think I do. I think what we're going to do is we want to make a local f like bullet info at the start here. We actually only want to do this when it becomes relevant, otherwise we're going to be doing this every tick. So if we make a local f bullet info actual bullet info, we firstly set that to current bullet info, and then we can start like applying the damage multiplier, which fucking apparently is not just called damage. What is it called? Base damage. That makes sense. We just multiply it with that, and then rate of fire multiplier. That's called base rate of fire, surely. No. What? I'm gonna just double check that to be sure. Did I? Inconsistency. Great. Rate of fire multiplier. So we just make a copy of it, edit that copy, and then use the copied version for everything that we like care about, right? So actual bullet info, and then fire rate will be yeah, that'll be good. All right, so that was some updating that very desperately was needed to make things a little bit more flexible going forward. So now we can easily modify the damage on a per actor basis from the base values that we set up in the data table. Which means we still can have like a ×5 damage multiplier, and then switch over to a different bullet type and still maintain all of those damage multipliers easily, which I think will be good to have. So let's actually set these multiplier values to a like initialized default value of 1. We have those in here somewhere, right? Yeah, damage multiplier is 1, rate of fire multiplier is 1. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I needed to update about the code. So let's see if it starts screaming at me about anything. It would be ideal if it didn't. I would very much prefer if it didn't like error out anything, but you know, life can't always be good. As I've been finding out over the past couple of weeks, because holy hell, I don't know if anybody's been in the Discord, but like my fucking, okay. Damage is not a member of, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. So anybody who's in the Discord will have heard me bitching about my whole like dentist situation, which I finally figured the fuck out today. Doesn't mean that I'm not like still in quite a lot of pain, but we'll get there. I have an appointment on Friday to get like part of my teeth fixed, and then making another appointment for the like actually like painful issue that I'm having. So in a couple of weeks' time, my jaw should stop popping every time I open my mouth too wide as well, which would be fantastic because there's like, because I have such pain in my jaw, I don't want to like turn this into like medical streaming, but because I have such like pain in my jaw is in a constant tension, which also makes you real fucking tired, by the way, being in pain 24/7 and like being at tension the entire time. So that should be getting fixed within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, I can go back to living a normal fucking life. Well, as normal as it gets for me, that is. Anyway, now that we have all that, first and foremost, we need to add in the rate of fire for these bullets. So let's say the rate of fire by default is going to be like 0.5 for this, and then I don't know what this has. No base damage. Oh, I changed the name. Yeah, that makes sense. So base damage is going to be 10 for both of them. Can I just update multiple of these at a time? No, you cannot. Okay, so 10 and 05. None of them have a bullet mesh. That's good. So then for testing purposes, if I go, it doesn't actually use the rate of fire variable that I have anymore. So that's, yeah, that's both 1. So that should now let me shoot every 2 times a second, and then I fire 2 bullets, so that's 4 bullets a second. In theory, it is not doing that. Why not? Why is it not doing that? Oh, because the default name is not filled in anymore. Why not? That's weird. I probably should have like a fallback for that, maybe. Maybe I should. Can I just like copy the name? Seriously, there's no copy name? Oh, I guess I can just rename and copy that over. I mean, that's not a big deal. It's kind of weird. Okay, let's try again. So it should let me fire 2 times a second, and then if I go back in and I change the rate of fire multiplier, I just realized the rate of fire multiplier is probably best of like working the other way around, because right now it multiplies because like it's a multiplier, obviously. But if I double the rate of fire multiplier, it actually halves. So it should now allow me to shoot once a second. I feel like intuitively I just want that number to go up. Do I want that number to go? I probably want that number to go up as I like want to shoot more bullets, right? Because now, yeah, the time between gets longer instead of shorter. So what I want to do is I want to go here. If I set this to like 0.25, now it should be 4 times as fast. So that's about once every 0.12 seconds ish. 0.125 seconds actually. Which is a lot more, obviously, which means that I can just absolutely annihilate these idiots. I feel like they should also, like, these bullets should probably be faster than the player, right? It seems like that might be a good thing. So, wait, am I damaging myself with my own bullets? No. Okay. I do know that the enemies can damage each other with their bullets. That might be a thing that is worth looking into fixing. But I also kind of like that in a way. And I'm not just saying that because it means that I don't have to fix it. I'm partly saying that because it means that I don't have to fix it. So yeah, rate of fire we just want to divide instead. And then I guess we want to actually... somebody's fucking texting me in the middle of the stream again, because why the fuck wouldn't you? Min rate of fire. Yeah, so we want to min rate of fire to 0.1. Just want to make sure that it doesn't go below like 10 shots a second, because that's kind of like ridiculous, right? Don't know why I felt I need to recompile for that, because that's like literally not important. Let me check what that text was about. Yeah, I can reach my phone, come on. There we go. Huh. That might be an interesting text, actually. Need to look into this after the stream. Huh, okay, gonna bookmark that. Not important for right now, but very glad that people do be texting useful shit. Okay, with all that, now it should work the other way around. So if I set my rate of fire, let's keep it at 1, just to see if it like behaves the way that we would want it to behave. Oh, it's definitely no. Hold on, it's not going to behave the way that I want it to behave. It's going to always set it to 0.1 now. Also, it still didn't save my bullet info name stuff. Why the fuck do you keep resetting? I guess that just didn't save. But it's not going to work the way I want it to work anyway, because it's taking the max. Oh, so actually Copilot saved my ass, because I was going to like fully do min, but I want to take the max between these. So if rate of fire is just like a reasonable number, it takes a rate of fire. If it's an unreasonable number below 0.1, it's just going to like round that to 0.1. So that's actually exactly what I wanted to do. You caught my mistake. Congratulations, Copilot. You're actually like a hero. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're the actual worst thing invented by humanity. Aside from like the whole taking your jobs kind of thing. Which is maybe a little overstated, obviously. It also just generates bullshit a lot of the time. Okay. That all said, let's compile and save everything, so that hopefully actually saves these values now. So, at a value of 0, or a value of 1 rather, this should behave normally, about 2 shots a second. Seems about right. But if I now go back in here and I say, actually I want my rate of fire to be like 5 times as fast as usual, it's now a higher value that's going to make it shoot faster, which is just a little bit more intuitive, I feel. And that does work. Now, these do need to just be faster. Or maybe... or maybe the player just needs to be a little slower as well. Because it starts out with a max speed of like 2500. I think a max speed of 1500 by default is probably good. And then it's maybe not a bad idea to put in on the player at least some sort of can be protected, that's fine. Yeah, some sort of U property for float movement speed multiplier. And then make a U function for new movement speed, which should be as easy as just movements max speed, that, and then I guess we might as well. Do we want to? We probably want to like clamp this, right? Let's calculate it first. So float new speed. And let's clamp speed between, let's say, 750 and 4500. And then acceleration should be that's not what I wanted, but that's interesting. You can just set that directly. Oh, it's because that's just bullshit. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let's set acceleration to be our new speed multiplied by 3. Just so that's instant for both like accelerating and decelerating, just to make it like feel nice and snappy. That gets us a movement speed multiplier. Obviously, this is a bad idea to do, I realize now, because it's actually taking the current max speed. So what we should do instead is default movement speed. I'm going to set that to 1500. And it should multiply this with the default movement speed instead. And then I guess on begin play, just to make this like consistent, we should set movement speed multiplier just to 1. Now, make sure everything is saved in here. So that when I recompile, I don't have to give in those same goddamn names again. Because that gets tedious real fucking quick. That wasn't even a joke. I was literally talking as I was trying to drink water. That's a bad idea. That kind of made me lose my train of thought. Alrighty. I think that means that we can start making some basic power-ups now. And I think I'm going to do that like entirely in Blueprint. Because we have everything set up now to the point where it's like super easy to like build up upon this in Blueprint. We could make the base power-up functionality in C++ if we wanted to, I guess. But at this point, let's just do it like Blueprint based. So we do actor, BP, TwinStick power up. Might have been good to make the base class C++ anyway, but here we are. Sphere collision, and then I guess we do a Niagara component. Do I have like a power up or something like that? Like health, HP? No. At some point I did download something for those, I think. The fuck is this even? I mean, that's kind of neat. It's actually kind of cool. I don't know what that's from, but that's kind of cool. Let's just do something fun. Oh, this one's also really cool. But actually, I don't know. Maybe it kind of sucks. Could be cool for a specific like type of attack though. I'm literally like I'm not making a lot of like my graphics because that's a lot of work and I'm not like super good at it necessarily. I just need something that looks like halfway decent for like a pickup placeholder for now. Okay, so that's quite big. We can just make it small. Maybe it's a little too small. You know, for now, I'm kind of happy with that. So what we'll do is we'll just make a... We can make an event. Custom event on pickup. And when we overlap, we check is, well... We don't know. We cast to TwinStick player. I'm casting anyway because I want to send through some stuff to it. So TwinStick player on pickup. Why do you not work? What the fuck? TwinStick player. Oh, you are a normal. What? But that should be. I guess it doesn't really matter. Sure. And this doesn't really do anything for this one because obviously this is just a base pickup. So this is going to be an abstract class. So let's go in here and make sure that we mark it as such. And then we PP healing pickup. Override on pickup. Player. Maybe I should just make functions on this as well on the player because I don't think I have like a heal yet. Might have been a nice thing to do actually. But well, here we are. Get current health, sets current health, get max health. We do current health plus amount to heal. And then we take the minimum between that and the max health. Hold on. Because we don't want it to exceed the maximum health that we can have, obviously. So that's our healing pickup. We're going to make a bunch of these in quick succession, because I say so. Does this Niagara system happen to have, like, some type of like color parameter that we can maybe set up easily? It's only got a couple of emitters. I'm not going to use these for the actual game, I should point out, but I do think it'll be kind of nice to have this for testing purposes as well. So we can scale color. Do we have like a set color? I guess we this color curve. So we want to have like a color curve, right? Can I set this in any way? Or does that just mean that I need to make like a color gradient? Color array, probably not an array, right? That would be weird. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is how you do that. That makes sense. So that's just opacity 1 to opacity 1, and on this one we set up as being like a pretty dark blue to a lighter blue. It's good enough. And then we use this color curve for all of these. And this is why it's good to know the basics of these particle kind of things, right? And like material stuff. Not because you necessarily want to be making every single potential thing in your game on your own, but you want to be able to like at least know enough to take what other people have made and change it to like suit your own needs. I'm not a particle expert. I'll never be a particle expert. But I can know just enough to change things to how I want them to like work. And then other people can like worry about making it look good. That said though, this should now, yeah, curve for color. So I can now in here say, hey, I want these ones to actually just like kind of be like green. So make this a little darker green, that's fine. Yeah, how to check the visibility of a widget, specific widget switcher is rendered and is in viewport doesn't work. I think the widget just has a variable for visibility, like an enum. Let me check if I have anything with a widget like at hand. Yeah, so I have a bunch of widgets that I make here in a function, but I think you can just like get visibility. Yeah, so this is just, you can either get the enum directly or you have a function for it. And there you can just check, hey, is it visible, is it collapsed, is it hidden, is it not hit testable, or is it hit testable? So you can just check on this, which also, like, because it's an enum, also supports a switch statement to make that maybe a little bit more clear. So if you want to do one thing when it's visible and one other thing when it's like literally anything else, well, I guess technically like these also would be visible. So only when it's like hidden or collapsed do you do one thing, and when it's visible or any of these other bottom ones, you go into a different path. That should work if you're like actually changing the visibility. If you have it like made but not added to the viewport, the is in viewport should work. So it kind of depends on what you mean by hidden. Did I not just set you to, oh, that's maybe, did I do it in the wrong one? I think I might have done in the wrong one. Yeah, so let's set this back to default real quick and go back to the healing pickup. How do you manage your attitude when things aren't going your way? A lot of assuming there. I don't know. just chill the fuck out, I guess. I don't really have a good answer to that, I'm afraid. Generally try to like adopt a mindset of it being like a gap in your own knowledge rather than something the engine is fucking up with. Sometimes it is definitely the engine being weird. I should point out sometimes engine does a lot of weird stuff, but usually that weird stuff like has a reason that just might not apply to like your specific situation, which can feel frustrating in the moment. But that's like a general thing that I see a lot of people like when an engine that's made to like supply a tool for everyone doesn't work in their very specific situation, they get frustrated, which again I do that too. But I think it's healthy to like, keep in mind that that's like just not quite how things work. But aside from that, just like I don't know, there's nothing like really to that aside from doing it. Is it possible to have a drag drop system that when is dropped spawns the actor inside of the database of the button you're dragging? I mean, I'm sure it is, but that requires a little bit more like insight into what already is set up, I'm guessing. But generally speaking, like if you have a drag drop operation, assuming you're using the drag drop operation that Unreal comes with in a widget, just like on drop, if that button or that widget that you're dropping has a reference to a actor class, I don't think you can spawn from inside of a widget. So what you would need to do is you would need to have a function to somewhere else that can spawn a widget, like an actor. So probably need like if I like this HUD, for instance, right? Takes in a reference to the player. So at that point you would have a custom event to like spawn something on here, and because you have a reference to a actual actor in the world, you can use that actor to spawn in something else. Because the widget itself, I believe, can't spawn anything because it's not physically like present in the world. So yeah, let's put in one of those health pickups somewhere. Just to see whether or not they work. The thing is that the widget is, of course, 2D, and I want the actor to overlap with. Okay, so that's like issue number one, probably, is you don't want to like make the 2D widget to know when it overlaps with the default actor. So yeah, you at that point have a widget component on an actual actor that has some like 3D collider on it. But it's like significantly worth considering. I'm too high up to pick up that thing. It's significantly worth considering if you really like want to or even need to use a widget for that. Or maybe if you're better off managing that with sprites, because widgets are a fair bit more expensive to run than sprites. So if you're going to have a lot of them, what the fuck? So if you have a lot of them, you'll probably like have a pretty bad time if you're managing it all through like widgets. Like if every single thing in your game like physically is a widget in the world, I don't know that that's like a great way to do it. I mean, if you're doing that and you're not running into any issues, I guess it's fine. But I'd be a little bit worried about it. So why is this not working exactly? It's a really specific thing. Need a 2D mechanic to be used for 3D. Would it be easier to make a system where drag drop an actual actor, not 2D widgets? I mean, it kind of depends on the situation, but if it's like something that's actually like in your game world, it should be an actor and not just a widget. If it's something for your like UI, that should be widgets. Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. I never set up this thing to destroy itself, did I? That makes sense. Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment. There we go. But I don't think that updated my health, did it? Yeah, I do think like based on what I'm hearing, is like you're like doing stuff in 2D, but then this needs to like affect your 3D. That sounds like you're putting like an actual like thing into the world, at which point that probably like should be an actor. Yeah, this is not adding health. Why is it not adding health? Like generally speaking, widgets, with some exceptions here or there, obviously, but generally speaking, widgets should only contain code to reflect the information in other objects and not do a lot more than that. As a rule of thumb, obviously, all rules are made to be broken. In the end of at the end of the day. Oh, amount of heals just set to 0. Holy fuck, I'm an idiot. That should be 15 or some number. There's a lot of questions. How did you learn Unreal Engine? By just doing a lot. Game jams help a lot. I will say that. Hold on, does this? There we go. Game jams help a lot. Doing small projects, doing projects that are way too big. And then learning that they're way too big and why they're way too big and how you can scale them down in the future so that you don't make them way too big. I say, as I'm working on a project that's way too big, so maybe I didn't learn that lesson yet. It's a lesson that everybody needs to learn and nobody actually ever learns. Do as I say, not as I do. I did work with Unity a bit. Like actually the project I'm working on right now started as a Unity project, and it actually started as me trying to like set up a project that I could just play around with and explore Unity with to like actually make something. And after a couple of months of working on this project in Unity, I was like, I'm gonna go back to Unreal, because I worked with Unreal for about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year before going into like trying Unity. Then I tried Unity for a handful of months, and then I was like, I'll go back to Unreal. And that's, I think, at this point, like 2.5 years ago. So altogether, I think I've got like 4 years working with Unreal and like 6 months with Unity or something, depending on how you count. But none of that is like full time as well, right? Because I have like a real job, sadly. And I'm like making videos and that kind of stuff. So like, it's not like I'm working like 40 hours a week in Unreal for the last 4 years, necessarily. On C++ or Blueprint, it kind of depends. If you know the basics of programming to begin with, I would say don't be like afraid of C++, because the things that make C++ usually a pain in the ass are like garbage collection and that kind of stuff. But Unreal does that for you. Like Unreal builds a garbage collector, so like that's usually managing that kind of stuff, like dangling pointers and shit, is what makes C++ a nightmare. But you don't really worry about that working in Unreal, so it's effectively just C# with slightly different syntax in some cases. And you're a little bit more like explicitly aware between like passing something by value, by pointer, or by reference. But that you get pretty used to that pretty quickly, I would say. So yeah. But if you're like not super familiar with programming in general yet, Blueprint is a really good way to like get into it. That is a little bit like easier to step in for a lot of people. To get a better understanding, the entire game is a bunch of buttons, and each button has an instrument and character applied to it. So when you drag it into the world, the default starts to play the instrument, and the character plays an animation. Okay, so then what you probably want to do, as a general overview, if you have like a bunch of like different like buttons on your UI, right, that all link, or do they link to a specific? No, they probably don't link to a specific character because they need to spawn them in, right? So in that case, you probably want to have like a manager object that actually manages this stuff. There's just an actor that actually exists in the world, which will create the like the widget itself and add it to the viewport, and provide the widget with a reference to itself. That way, if you need to spawn anything into the world that needs to like play animations and stuff, this widget can send a signal to this manager object to say, hey, spawn something into the world. Which this manager object can then do. This manager object will then also be able to hold references to the things that it has spawned. So if it spawns in like a character right here, when it spawns it in, the manager will like probably like add that to an array, maybe with like some kind of ID, so that it's like identifiable and you can like find it back or whatever, so it would be in a map, something along those lines. In case you need that. And this doesn't have to be like visible or anything. This can just like be entirely empty otherwise, but it's just like something that you can throw into the world that can like manage the link between your buttons, like your UI that you work with, and everything that needs to happen inside of the world. That's probably how I would like look into that. Have you heard of Spacetime DB? No, I have not. It looks very interesting, but there aren't any C bindings yet, only C# and Rust. So I'm wondering if there's any interact with C++ to use with UE5. I have to look into exactly like how and what that is, because I've never heard of it. And how will the drag drop system know what actor is overlapping to know which one you select? So for that, you pretty simply have a like get player controller. And I think in that you have like get actor under cursor or something like that, maybe get position under cursor, get mouse position scaled by DPI. There is something for that. I forget exactly what the name of the function is and how to get it. But you can get like the actor that you're currently like hovering over. Or at least the position that you're currently hovering over. You might need to like do a line trace from your camera to that position to see what you overlap with. Worst case scenario, what you can do is the base actor class also has the like this on-clicked or unreleased event that might work with drag and drop as well. I'm not entirely sure about that. Yeah, but your cursor position is still going to be where you like give input on your screen with a mobile device. So I think that should still work. But either way, I think that unreleased might work as well. But you might need to like set up some things. I'm not entirely like 1000% sure about all like the nitty-gritty details right now. You currently work for a studio. No, this is just like a side thing. I don't like work for like any game development stuff. And nobody's really like approached me because of visibility, aside from like YouTube related things, but not for like game development things. Yeah, it might need a different event for that if you're like using these events. Let's see. Yeah, for these events, it has these touch input begin and or enter and leave. You probably want to use end because you're like releasing it. But I'm pretty sure if you like get your cursor position, it also just like gets the position that you're touching on a mobile device. But I haven't like done much for mobile because I mean, I don't like mobile stuff that much. Yeah, so let's make a couple more of these. So that's the wrong thing that I just duplicated. What do you hate most about? What I hate most about the engine is, I mean, that changes on a daily basis, honestly. I do feel like, especially over the last couple of years, there is this perception that it's like pushing for better and better graphics, while it's like not actually like finishing up a lot of those features. Like all the Lumen stuff is amazing, but they barely finish polishing up Lumen to be like actually usable without it being like a horrible noisy mess that has a lot of ghosting. And then they introduce megalights, which make the issues that Lumen has even worse. Which means that Lumen now on its own, because they've had to like make up for the fact that they make those issues even worse, Lumen on its own is actually like somewhat usable now. But they then add on a new feature that itself makes it like not actually viable and usable again. If you also use that new feature, that being Megalights. Megalights seems really cool, but it also introduces so much extra noise, which is not great, right? But that's not necessarily like a thing about the engine that frustrates me. That's just a thing about like the way Epic seems to be developing this stuff. It seems to be doing like a million things at the same time, and all of them seem like halfway finished at best. But then they also do things like this state tree stuff, which is amazing. Which has been a thing that has been like developed over the past like 2 years or so, really. Not just mobile because it's easier and there's a huge gap in the market for Unreal games. You see, I don't think that like a mobile gamer is going to care what engine the game runs on though. So I don't really think that like that's a gap that you can fill in that way. Like if you still make a good mobile game that people will play and like throw money at microtransactions for the win, that's fine. But like just the mobile gamer is probably not going to care whether or not it runs on Unity or Unreal or fucking Game Maker, Godot. Your average mobile game made with Unreal might look a little bit like more graphically impressive though. But even then, Unity's been like catching up with that stuff a lot as well. Like Unity still has this reputation for like not looking that good, and it's just I don't know. I prefer a lot of things to like work for graphics on Unreal, but Unity can make like some great looking stuff. Thing is, you do need the high definition rendering pipeline for that in Unity, and I don't know how that works with mobile. I think if you make something mobile for Unity specifically, you might have a good point because I think you might need to use the universal render pipeline for that, which does like make it look a lot worse. So like, there's definitely a point to that. Damage pickup. I guess we just get damage multiplier. Set damage multiplier. I guess we have like damage increase. Damage multiplier increase, that is. This plus this, and then we take the minimum between that and, I don't know, fucking... Do we really need to set a minimum between this and that? I don't think we do. We can just multiply the damage and kind of like be done with it. Set this to red. I'm gonna make these different, obviously, at some points. Hello, can you please... Hey, what the fuck? I guess I just do it like... Why? What the fuck's your problem, man? People complain a lot about poor optimization. I mean, that's also just a lot of people who who've played like two games from EA that run on Unreal, which run like shit. One of them being like specifically Jedi Survivor, which does run like shit. It's a great game, but even on my 4090, it runs like shit. On like medium settings, I'm playing at like 35 FPS with frame gen on. It's like actually crazy, insane that they are allowed to sell that game on PC. So there's definitely like, yeah, unoptimized games do come out of Unreal Engine. But it's kind of the same thing as people saying bad games or ugly games are made with Unity. Well, yeah, you can make a bad or ugly game with Unity. You can also make a great one. Like that's definitely like that's a developer-based issue, not an engine-based issue. The other crowd that like complains about Unreal optimization is the people who fall for the how am I going to say this in a way that is politically correct? Slightly misleading to disingenuous or just straight up bullshit claims that channels like, I don't want to start like any beef here, but like channels like Thread Interactive throw out into the world, which are like, their whole like identity is shitting on Unreal Engine, and sometimes for good reason, but also like mostly for clickbait, if I'm being 1000% real with you. Which that does do like actual active damage to the perception of Unreal Engine, like in the market by gamers, because it seems like somebody with authority is like giving like information and an opinion about this, while it's mostly just cherry picked bullshit. That made somebody subscribe as a member. Welcome. I'm afraid that I can't pronounce your name because I don't even know what language that is. But welcome nonetheless. Oh, this doesn't actually add anything yet, does it? Oh, it's going to increase my damage by 15 times. Yeah, maybe don't do that. Like, let's start by 5 times. You can just feel someone who was shady. The Thread Interactive guy always failed off. That's kind of what I was like. I got sent one of his videos like a year ago about like nanite, and I was like, I don't know, man. This guy doesn't like quite seen it. And then I did some research on like what people who like know what they're talking about think about him. Because I'm gonna be real with you, like I don't know enough about like Unreal's low level rendering to really like make any like informed opinion about that. But I kind of felt off, and that feeling seems to be validated by the general opinion that like actual graphics programmers have that I read. So again, I don't really know. I know how to work with Unreal Engine. I know what Unreal Engine does for the most part. Well, maybe not even for the most part. For a decent part, I don't know everything about like the low level code that it runs on, because that shit's actually like straight up insane. What do you think about developers who use demo maps of marketplace assets? I mean, asset flips, going back to like Unity and Unreal preconceived like IDs, that's something that Unity is very well like associated with, is asset flips. I mean, if those people like feel happy doing that, sure. Most of the time, like nobody's gonna actually gonna like play and buy that. So like, I don't really understand why people do it, because like, what do you get out of doing that aside from as a practice project to like put some things together and like play around with, and you like want to upload that and like share it with the world? Fine. But if like that's your entire shtick, is asset flipping, I guess if you do it like 1,000 times, one of them eventually has like statistically got a chance to like land it big enough to like make up for the 999 failures that you made. So like from a statistical point of view, maybe there is something to it, but I don't know, man. For the most part, it seems like you're just making shit that nobody's actually going to look at for longer than 2 seconds. At which point, if you're not doing it for like self improvement and like exploration or like just prototyping, you're just wasting your own time. I hate bodycam because his two brothers are doing that. Is that the... Is that the like super like high realism like game that people weren't sure was like not actual footage? But if you like look at it, it's very obviously not actual video footage. It's actually just like a game. Because that was funny to me. Like it looks good. Don't get me wrong. It looks really good. It looks really good because it's mostly mega scan assets, as far as I understand, which helps. I don't actually know that much about the game, aside from the fact that it's like a very good Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. I mean, using assets itself is fine, right? I mean, like this thing that I'm using here is a placeholder. That's an asset that I downloaded. A lot of the stuff that, like the visual effects, like if I just go play the game, these sword swipes, those are assets. I didn't make those myself. I bought those. This dash particle effect, it's an asset. Didn't make that myself. The characters and all that stuff are all my work. Like everything that you see here, all these models, these are all like 100% me. The animations are all 100% me because obviously they are. If I make the character, I also make the animation. So like using assets itself isn't like the biggest deal. It's just like when your entire game is only comprised of like putting assets together without like your actual like own creative input. Where I'm like, yeah, why would you do that? Let's make one more pickup here. From damage pickup, we're going to go into rate of fire pickup. Wait, don't I have a set damage multiple? Fuck. I think, hold on. I made a function for this, didn't I? Damage multiplier or something? No. Set damage? Did I not do that? Well, sure. I thought I did that, but apparently I did not. It's fine. Even the UI as assets, they changed like 4 things and sold for 35. I mean, they still have to like put it together. Like there's still some amount of work to go into that. Like to be entirely fair, not the same amount of work that making a whole ass game takes. Like not even close, but like, there's still something that you have to do there. Unless like I don't know what the gameplay is like. Is it literally just like the first person template with like literally a pre-existing map that hasn't been changed? Because like I'm not a huge fan of the idea that it's literally just like a bunch of mesh assets that they then put together either, obviously. But if they like at least put together a level with pre-existing assets, like that's okay-ish enough. If it's literally just a demo map with like literally no gameplay interaction that they make themselves, yeah, that's maybe like not great. That's definitely not great, I should say, by the way. That's like, there's no maybe about that. I don't love that. Thinking about making a bodycam liminal game with a lot of hyper realistic assets as well. I mean, I don't know that you necessarily need to change a bunch of your stuff just because it uses the same assets. Um, because in the end, like, yeah, you want to differentiate yourself from other things, and that's the thing with like these Megascan assets to begin with, is they're generic as hell. Um, but if you're gonna go for like a photorealistic look anyway, like it's not that big of a deal, and like the way you put together those assets is so much more important than the actual assets themselves. Um, it's a very small thing, which is like not at all the same as the example that we're talking about here. But um, earlier this year I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and at some point I was like, "Hey, I recognize this chest because I have this chest in my game." This chest is also in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because yes, that game also runs on Unreal Engine. So I was like upstairs in some kind of like inn or some shit in the game, and I was like, hey, hold on, I think I know that one. But that's only because it's like actually like in my game, and I've seen this chest a billion times because I've like used it in development. If I just ran across the same like asset in a game that I'm just playing, I wouldn't notice. Obviously, if it's the exact same map, you would notice. But that's where we come back to the way you put these things together is so much more important than the actual assets themselves. That I don't think you like have too much to worry about there. I mean, the thing is, I only realized because I have that literal exact same asset in my project that I'm like actively working on, right? That's the point I'm making. Is I realized this. No other like actual person is gonna. 99.9% of players aren't gonna realize this at all. Every AAA game you play uses pre-made assets. Every single one. Like using the pre-made assets is not the issue. It's adding your own stuff to it and the way you put them together. That is important. I guarantee every AAA game that's made on Unreal, if you like spend an hour looking through the game and through the marketplace, you're gonna find matches. Every single one. Because especially for things like foliage, right? If you're making a tree, there's only so many ways that a tree can look. Realistically, are you really going to spend hours of time with one of your developers, which is hundreds of dollars, to make a tree that's, for the player's perspective, going to look the exact same way as a pack of trees that's $25 in the marketplace anyway? Right? That's just wasting your own money and time. Like making assets is actually like a really good business. Like if you're good enough at making like specifically like 3D art or like visual effects or whatever, making those is a fantastic business because so many people use them, and not just like small indie games, big AAA studios as well. And the wonderful thing about that is that you're much more certain to sell those than you are to sell a game. Because there's a lot of people who buy these assets who then don't manage to sell their game. But that's not your fucking problem because you've already sold the assets. You're much more if you're like in the game development like niche and you're like looking to make money, you're much better off making assets than you are making games. Because making a game, like, let's say that you're making a game and you're making everything, you come back to that whole like tree thing that I said before, right? You can spend like 20 hours making a tree, and if you value your own time at like $40 an hour, if you spend 20 hours making a tree, you've just essentially like spent $800 making a tree, which is a huge waste of your time. But if you can spend that 20 hours making a tree and then selling it for like $5, and you sell 100 of those, you've only made $500, to be fair. So you're still like under that $800 mark. But that's one asset. You'd probably, like, more realistically, like, spend a couple hundred hours making like an entire foliage shed. But like, those details aside, you're much more likely to make your money back on like individual assets than you would be on an entire game. Even when you use assets in your game to like make it more reasonable to actually like finish your project or whatever. Issue is, I severely lack the skill in making art assets to do that. So here I am. I guess I could like make like game frameworks and that kind of stuff. That already is much less profitable than like sound or visual assets though. But like really good plugins will also sell well. Issue is that like really good plugins, I don't have a lot of good ideas that don't already exist. So that's kind of like an issue. Like I have my own inventory plugin that I'm like just kind of making for myself, and at some point I might like put up on the marketplace along the like 20 that already exist. But the issue is that I'm not at all programming this to be like replication friendly, so I don't know how it will work across network, which means that it's probably not gonna like sell well because I didn't think about that from the ground up, because I'm making this mostly for myself. The best way to make money, though, I think, is making videos like I did X and Y time. I mean, I'm here to tell you that that's probably not true. The RPM is bad, but they still get lots of views. Yeah, so for a video to actually make sense financially, you need to get an insane amount of views. Like, if you do X and Y time, let's say you spend a 12-hour development day doing something, right? That's the thing that I've seen. Like I spent 12 hours developing. I spent 24 hours developing. If you value your time, again, at $40 or $50 an hour, the day of development itself is going to be like $500-600. Then you actually need to edit that video together, which is going to be like probably a similar amount of time. So now like your production value on this entire video is now well like over $1,000 already, which means that you need to get at least 1 million views or have like a good sponsor for the video. And you might be getting a lot of views. The chance of you getting 1 million views on anything like that is very, very low. Like if you get a good sponsor for a video like that, you can get away with like maybe going down to like 100,000 views, which is much more achievable if you already have like a good pre-existing audience. But still, getting 100,000 views on a video is not a trivial like feat to do. Let's see, 30 to 35 times 100,000 sales is 3 million. Yeah, so you do like take a couple of things into account. There's number one is you need to actually get 100,000 sales, which is a lot. But even if you do, if you're doing the Epic Marketplace, I think they take like 20% of that, which takes like a chunk out of that, and then you still need to pay taxes as well, which depending on like how much it is and where you live can obviously vary from almost nothing to like 50%. But still, like if you sell like 100,000 of any asset, that's going to be like a lot of money. Like even if you divide that like 3 million by over half, you still have like a million, right? 10% for tax. I want to live where you live because I definitely pay more than 10% income tax. Like without a doubt. That is amazing. That is actually amazing. Like I don't pay 50%. Like I pay. I don't know exactly what I pay actually. I do need to do my taxes for last year sometime soon. Um, but like value added tax itself is 21% here. So like that by itself is like a pain in the ass already. That said, value added tax is kind of like different from income tax, but that's only value like VAT. And then income tax is obviously based on how much you make. So if you make under like I think something like 25,000 euros a year, you effectively pay like almost nothing. And then you have a bracket up to like 50,000 where you pay a low percentage. Um, but that low percentage is still like 20% or something like that, I think, here. And if you're over like 250,000 a year, I think you pay like 52% or something. Like over half, literally. At least a couple of years ago when I looked at it, out of curiosity, because I can tell you one thing: I don't make over $250,000 a year or euros a year, sadly. And then obviously, of course, you only get that 50% tax on every euro you make after that first 250,000 anyway. So if you've already like made a quarter million in a year, like I think it's kind of fair to like be taxed heavily. What the fuck am I even like doing? Talking about taxes while I'm supposed to be doing this. You're German. I'm Dutch, which is German without the aggression. It's horrible. That's kind of the thing, right? Because I don't know much about Norway specifically. I know that Scandinavian countries in general have like super high taxes, but they also have like a lot of like social programs. So it's not like those taxes don't go anywhere that the average person doesn't like have benefit from. It's kind of fucked that you pay a lot of taxes that you then like get money back from, but that's just like distributing somewhat fairly to like the people that need that stuff. I mean, that's what politics is, right? Trying to like agree on how much everybody should like share and how much everybody should get. That's the difficult part about politics. These days, obviously, it doesn't seem like that's like the main thing that we talk about in politics anymore, but that's what it's supposed to be. And like reasonable minds can differ on opinion about that. Oh, this feels good though, doesn't it? Where I live, you pay 3% of your income as LCC. Yeah, but I think I don't know how it works for you, but I think like how it works over here is like at that point, like you have to pay like corporate income tax on that. But any money you take out of that corporation at that point, you need to pay taxes over again as like personal income tax. So that's why like corporate taxes are so low because any money that's like actually like funneled out of it still does need to get taxed as personal income. but it being perfectly legal to close it and start a new one is insane. So it seems like maybe wherever you live doesn't do that. You have to take into account gross profit, subtract taxes, royalties for Epic Games. I mean, I think, isn't it like if you make under $1 million on your game, your royalties to Epic are essentially nothing, which, I mean, if you make over $1 million, you do need to start taking that into account, but most people aren't going to like make that much. I don't know if that's revenue or profit though, because that does make a difference. I'm assuming that's revenue, not profit. Which means that if you're like running a studio, you're likely to exceed that 1 million. But for like individuals, like you're not likely to do that. And if you do that, your game sold very well. But like statistically, it's unlikely to do that. But yeah, if you have like employees and stuff, you need to pay them and that kind of stuff. I mean, that like corporation money you can of course then spend on like company stuff, but only to a certain degree, right? You need to like, it needs to reasonably be a business expense. You can't like buy your groceries for like the business. Well, you can until you get audited, at which point like you've been actively committing fraud, which is going to be a hefty fine at best. So like probably don't do that like too regularly. Like I do a lot of like things that I have fun with and enjoy are like business expenses. Like my entire PC obviously is a business expense because like fucking look at this, right? I have a Steam Deck. That thing was a business expense because do I play games on it and enjoy that? Yes. Do I do that for research purposes? Also, very much yes. So like there's probably like a lot of wiggle room there, but to a certain extent. That said though, that Steam Deck is definitely like one of the best fucking purchases that I've made of my life. Love that thing. But I can like genuinely argue, not even like, oh, I'm getting like one over on the big, scary, mean tax man. I genuinely like can argue that I primarily use it for things that I am currently like researching. Like I played Hollow Knight on it, which I can tell you, playing Hollow Knight was not a fun experience for me. I did not enjoy that game. I see a lot of potential there. I didn't think it was a great game, which isn't going to make me a lot of friends, I know. But I did it because I wanted to have like a little bit of inspiration for like what does like a 2D hack and slash game and look like, and like a lot of like the general vibe of my game has some Hollow Knight inspiration in a certain way. So I've figured, you know, I've started playing Hollow Knight like 4 different times. Every time I got distracted. Now I have a Steam Deck, I can play it in small increments. So I actually played through it. Again, not a super pleasurable experience, but a very informative one. I need groceries to be able to live in code. I mean, I would like to agree with you. I very much doubt that the tax authorities will agree with you there. That said, though, there is like certain leeway, at least here, I believe, that if you work from home, that a certain amount of like drinks, like coffee, can be written off as a business expense, like from your home. But you can't say that your personal like home rent is a business expense just because you work from home, for instance. Well, there is a little bit more leeway there if you like work from home, at least here. But I think by and large, like a lot of the tax setup again for the Netherlands is kind of just fair, like fair enough. I would like obviously for it to be more lenient and more in my favor at all times, because having more money is nice. But I think that like by and large, the way like tax rule stuff works here is fine. It's actually like kind of fair. or you can deduct $2,000 of coffee as a business expense. Yeah, so there is like a reasonable limit to that. I don't know what it is, but people are buying SUVs as a business expense. I mean, assuming that they use that for actual business, I don't see the issue with that. Of course, if that's a quote-unquote business expense, that turns into an entirely different story. There's a lot of people abusing the system, don't get me wrong. I know that. And to a certain extent, that's kind of like calculated into the system, right? That some people are going to abuse it and like not in a way that is worthwhile like pursuing for the government either. So like they just kind of eat it on those taxes. Like that's built in. There's a limit until you can prove that it is true. I mean, if you actually like drink $2,000 worth of coffee during like work hours, like you can make an argument probably, yeah, that's fair like business expense. But at that point, is the open heart surgery that you're going to need as a result of that also a business expense? Is the question, right? Because that is not good for your heart. You can buy a building and say it's a business expense. I mean, yeah, but the thing is, if you actually like then start working from that building, it is a business expense. And then demolish, okay. I mean, at that point, you still bought the plot of land. So I still don't think that that's necessarily unreasonable. It's probably like a dumb thing to do, but if you like want to do something else and build something else on that like plot of land, and you have like the permits for it if you need them. But in the initial building, like to get that plot of land, seems fair enough, right? As a business expense. Even if you're like losing money on it initially, or just in general. Tax evasion is only illegal if you get caught. I mean, that's true for any crime. Crime is only illegal if you get caught. I'm not going to say that you should commit crimes, but I mean, that is effectively true, right? I don't know why I was talking about like tax codes while I should be making a game. I made 3 pickups. Do we have any other stats that we need pickups for? Max HP. Let's do one for max HP. I was thinking that maybe today we also start like building a level for this thing, but the pace that we're going at, BP pickup increase max HP. Now the important question is, get the fuck out of here, Twitch bots. When we increase max HP, do we also increase the current HP, or do we only do the max? Because we have like a specific healing pickup as well. I feel like we should increase the current HP as well. But then it won't be very clear that you picked up an upgrade. So you probably want to print the actual like HP values on the HP bar itself as well. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Yeah, let's do that. So we get current max, or like get max health, set max health, and then we don't even need to do like this minimum stuff. We just do this plus that, and then set that, and then gonna be done with it. the minigame you're making has more mechanics than some of my standalone games. I mean, there's not that many mechanics at this point. Like, programming-wise, we're kind of finished, I think, now. There's got to be like some design and then some levels that we need to do, but like programming-wise, like pretty much, like aside from the fact that we like set up the object pooling, which was a bit of like a thing that we did last week. But everything just kind of revolves around like this set of data, right? We have like base damage and rate of fire that we can... Oh, speed upgrades. That's something that we definitely are going to need. Hold the fuck on. Max HP upgrade, sure, we'll set that to some value or some color for now. Fucking... I don't know. This to like this. Good enough. Again, we'll make actual effects for this, or rather, probably download actual effects for that. Pick up, increase speed. That's the last one that we're gonna need. And for that one, I made a function on the actual C++. That's the thing that I got confused about. Now I remember. Man, my brain is weird sometimes. Set speed multiplier. Okay, that's actually get speed multiplier plus the amount to increase, which by default definitely should just be 1. Well, actually, how does this work? New speed is default speed. That's not how I wanted it at all. Plus equals new movement speed multiplier. And now we use this in there. Yeah. So this way it increases. So we don't need this. We just need that. Makes it a lot simpler. Nice. You're awesome. No, you. That was a very bad answer on my part, but welcome. I'm in a little bit of a goofy kooky mood, if you can't tell today. Which, I mean, I'm usually, but today more so, because, frankly, I'm in a lot of pain right now, because my jaw is, like, hurting really quite badly. We're getting that fixed up in the next couple of weeks, but combination of, like, quite a lot of pain, and then... I'm not even... Ooh, this is not the call that I wanted it to be. Right now, not even a lot of painkillers. Like, the rest of the week I've been, like, chugging painkillers like it's nobody's fucking business, but right now I'm actually, like, not even on that much, which is to say none, as far as, like, painkillers go, which is good, because I can, like, manage to not use medicine, which means that I'm in a little bit less pain than I have been. Every indie game I see, I imagine, was made by a single 20-year-old son of a bitch in his bedroom. I think it's a millionaire. I mean, most indie games aren't, obviously. Most indie games are made by studios, but like, there's a lot of solo games that are made by like 20-some-year-old dudes in their bedroom. Some of them explode. Like Minecraft technically started out as that, and now it's like a Microsoft corporate like bullshit machine. But The Binding of Isaac, dare I say Faz? Do people still dislike Phil Fish? I don't know. And like some of those people then become millionaires because they like sell a bunch of shit. But like being a millionaire isn't that big of a like issue. It just means that you like sold something very successfully. There's not like no inherent like exploitation in like making a couple million. Everybody wants to have that for themselves, obviously, but like when you get into like the hundreds of millions to the billions range, like that's near impossible to do without like exploiting people at some level. You can definitely like run an ethical business selling stuff and like making millions. You can see people get rich by previously unimaginable to do for one person, like girls from OnlyFans. But that's like that's the whether or not we're talking about like that, or YouTubers, or game developers, or musicians, or like the success stories of like singular people going and making millions of their success are one in a million stories. Like those are very much like outlier exceptions. That is, there's a lot of luck involved, and for every person that manages to achieve that with like their given like media, there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who don't get the time of day. Like they don't even like get 2 eyeballs, or in some other case, maybe some other kind of balls on them. Which is like, there's mostly a factor of luck involved with that. Some of that is quality, persistence, that kind of stuff. But there's also a lot of luck. Right time, right place, that kind of stuff. Did I slow down when I picked it up? Hold the fuck on. That's not what that's supposed to do. What the fuck? That's supposed to effectively, like, double my speed. Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense because I didn't recompile yet, did I? People who have illegal businesses earn less than people who are at the forefront of technology. I mean, there might be like a slight little bit of overlap there. Like specifically if we're talking about like AI, for instance, right? AI is at the forefront of technology, like a lot of generative AI. The question of legality is something that is like actively trying to be answered after this technology has been developed, which is a mess. But that's kind of the thing, right? Like a normal girl on OnlyFans doesn't make 10K a month. Like that's the top 1%. But there's still like a 99% below that that barely make like tens, if maybe hundreds. Like you can't compare yourself to the top 1% of any given industry and say that that industry as a whole makes a lot of money. That said, I don't exactly know the ins and outs of like the numbers about like OnlyFans models, but I'm pretty sure that like the top 1% is within like the, I don't know, couple of thousand a month range, which is a lot of money. Tell that to a licensed doctor. Yeah, but there's also a huge disparity there on what doctors get paid. there's more of a like assurance that if you have like a like medical license that you're gonna be paid well, as you should be. Like to be 1,000% clear, like people who are trusted with people's lives should probably be compensated a fair amount to that, as long as they don't fuck up. But that's what they're getting paid for, to not fuck up, or not to like abuse their position. But yeah, there's gonna be like some like annoying ass talentless loser on social media that makes more money than most doctors. That sadly is just kind of a fact of life, yeah. And I wouldn't mind being that talentless loser. I mean, to just be, ooh, that's fast. That's faster. Okay, I mean the pickup works, but holy fuck, I'm fast. Oh, that no, that makes sense. That's because I made a mistake in my code. Because this should be 0. But yeah, it's not great that like people with actual like important jobs to society might make less money than people who only like make society worse. But there's, I don't know what the name would be, but there's like some fallacy there of like measuring by outliers, which I think is like good if like to be mindful of. If nothing else, like just for your own like mental well-being, to like not let it drive you crazy, because like essentially the issue of, hey, some people like doing actually like important and hard work do make less money than people who like, only like wastes like oxygen, right? But yeah, I mean the pickups work. Huh? Why did that damage me? Oh, it didn't damage me. It just increased my max HP. Yeah, so that's not what we want, is it? Um, that's not what we want at all. Hold on, what the fuck? What is this? Increase max HP. Yeah. So I guess we also just set like current health. Yeah, I don't even know how the fuck we're getting up to like fucking taxes and income inequality at this point, but I'm here for it. I don't know, man. Have you ever like looked at a pirate software stream? That dude gets up to like the weirdest talks while making games and playing games. Not necessarily saying that that's like what I have ambition to like necessarily be personally. It seems like it's a fun vibe hanging out in the streams. Seems like generally like a chill dude. From what I see, like very limited amount of like curated TikToks, so I don't actually like know shit. Might be that out of 99% of the time that doesn't get uploaded to TikTok, he's been a huge dick. I don't know. I kind of doubt it though. Generally, people seem to like him, and people that don't seem to like him seem to just dislike him because he mentions that he used to work at Blizzard and at one time he ran away in like a WoW raid or something, like half a year ago. which is kind of weird to still be mad about, but hey, what the fuck do I know? Apparently the IRS started looking into Unreal 5 live streams. I mean, I prefer they didn't. It's funny because I do work with some like American companies, right? So a couple of years ago, I did actually get a tax form from the IRS, and I was like, fuck you, I'm not American. I'm not going to pay you shit. So I don't know if it's necessarily like safe for me to go to America at this point. I'm sure that they just send it by mistake and that it's fine, but I'm not paying America shit. I pay my taxes here. Typically, you earn in accordance to the importance of your work, but since social media has become so visible, you earn in accordance to how much you generate. I mean, that's kind of always how businesses worked, though. Well, that's kind of the thing. If you the big difference being is that with traditional business, you like supply a product that people like buy from you, and with social media, what you do is you supply mostly entertainment, obviously, which people give you their attention with, which then those people aren't your customers. Your customers are advertisers. So you're selling your audience to your clients, which are advertisers, which then sell their products to those people. So it's a cog in the machine that's always existed. It's just that advertising model used to exist only in like newspapers and radio and TV, and now it exists on social media as well. And it's a lot more approachable because you don't need to like get a television contract in order to like make stuff and be able to like connect that audience to those advertisers. But fundamentally, nothing has changed that much, aside from the fact that the advertising is a lot better at targeting the specific audience that they need now. Which is funny because that specific targeted advertising still pays a lot less to this day than traditional television advertising, which is insane because the broadness of the television audience means that a bunch of the people that you're reaching and paying for don't give a shit about your products, and you're paying more for it. I don't understand why people still advertise on like television at this point, to be honest with you. This carries risk of some sectors like construction. People want to live well and prefer to generate more than self-import. I think that's why Europe is flooded with cheap labor. I mean, to a certain extent, I do agree with that. But I also just generally think that like when it's easy to get cheap labor from a place, from people that are willing to do work for cheaper, that's just kind of like what capitalism pushes you to do. Keep your costs as low as possible so your profits are as high as possible. And very often, at least over here, those also end up being jobs that people from around here, for the most part, aren't super eager to do anyway, right? Those are like heavy physical work like construction or like farm work, that kind of stuff. Generally, people aren't super excited to do that here, and you would need to like pay them a premium to do that, on top of the fact that they're already more expensive. It's a thing that no country can do that. American government think that they are entitled to that. Yeah, I mean, America can kind of just go fuck off. for the most part. Like any Americans watching this, obviously I don't mean you, I just like mean your country. When you invade Europe and the Netherlands, I'm sure that I'm going to be on the list of people to get beheaded. I don't care. I don't really like your country. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff that you do right, but there's so much that's fucked up about it. TV generates security and familiarity, but the product it does lend a certain like legitimacy to your products if you have like a TV advert. That's a good point. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Getting a tax return from the IRS while I live in the Netherlands, I've never even been close to America, was certainly an experience. It's an experience that at first was a little scary and confusing, and after about 5 minutes was just profoundly hilarious. Because it does seem very much like the American government to just kind of decide that they're entitled to my tax money while they are not, right? Like that seems very much American. Either way, I don't really feel like going anywhere near America for the next little bit anyway, because that place is fucking burning down, man. Which is very not funny because like a good amount of my like actual like work revolves around America as an entity like being around and somewhat stable because it all revolves around the US dollar. So if that thing implodes, I'm kind of fucked. So hopefully you'll do fine. Please don't fucking die. I'd prefer if you didn't. Or I would prefer if Google just moved over to Europe and started like doing everything like centralized around the euro. But the amount of regulation that they would have to deal with if they were like centered in Europe would probably make them not happy. I'd really like to have the experience of living there. You see, I would like to have the experience of being a wealthy tourist in America. That sounds like a lot of fun. Like if I have like a couple of thousand like US dollars to spend over like a 2 week period, or maybe even like a month of being like in whatever like relevant places in America, that sounds like a really good time. As long as you don't get like too near any schools, that is, because you never know. But anything aside from that, it sounds like I'm not saying that like Europe as a whole or the Netherlands specifically is like a perfect place to live because it isn't. There's a lot of things going wrong here as well. Um, but I think we have our shit together a little bit. Too many crackheads and guns. I like it, like a GTA lobby. Yeah, I mean it really is just a GTA lobby at this point. It's probably not that fun and nice, but we think it is because the media that we consume makes us believe it. But that's also true. Like our entire media diet here, like in Europe, is very America central, which means that a lot of like we get a lot of like American propaganda by osmosis as a result, which like generally I feel like people aren't like too aware of. But I do think that it's like it would probably be like a great place to vacation if you have like money to like spend on fun stuff and like in the big cities that are expensive as hell. because there is a lot of culture there in like a weird way. That is like super interesting from a European perspective, because essentially what America is, in a lot of ways, is just an alternate timeline version of Europe. So if you're from Europe, there's gonna be places in America that you can go to that is just like taking your culture from like 200 years ago, put it in a different place, and let it like branch off into its own evolution. And I think that is interesting as hell. When you do something wrong, at least in Spain, it seems that everyone looks at you and judges you. The US seems to have more freedom. I don't know about that. Like, that's one of those things that America screams at it as very like free. It has a lot of freedom. But what does that actually mean? Because the moment you start to define that, it starts being very difficult to make the argument that America actually has more freedoms than the average European country. Society forces you to adapt or will judge you aggressively. I mean, that happens in America too, man. That happens everywhere. That's just what humans do. Which is its own like little problem, but that's just like sociology in general. Let's say heavy bullets. Can I like copy an entire row over? I can. That gives me a good baseline. Let's say that this does like twice the damage, but if it does twice the damage, it probably should have a rate of fire that is not quite twice as slow, I think. Because it's going to be more difficult to hit. So I think the rate of fire should be like 0.7. And twice the damage, and then the speed. You could probably keep the speed at 1500. That's probably kind of fine, yeah. Well, let's make it. Well, it needs to be. I think we might need to like look into adding the velocity of the character to the velocity of the projectile movement component as well. Driving from with your car in a vacant lot at 1 a.m. Like, first off, why? But like that aside, when no one's around, and you'll have half the police station chasing you. I mean, do you have that because you're in a vacant parking lot at 1 a.m.? Or does that happen because you're also like, if there's actually nobody around, like that obviously is a problem. But this kind of seems like a hypothetical situation that doesn't actually happen. Is the thing. Maybe in Spain. Obviously, I don't know anything about Spain. Like that first and foremost. But the only reason that I can assume that police would even like bother spending their time on that is because it is bothering other people. Because maybe like the car's playing loud music or something like that. At which point, I do think it's fair that like somebody's gonna come to correct that. But if it's not, like, actually not bothering anybody, obviously, yeah, that's like, why would the police need to like bother with that, right? On a percentage base, how much C++ versus Boolean on a AAA game, if you have any? I don't know, but I imagine that a lot of the code is C++, because it does perform better, and generally, like most of the code will be like program. I made a. Is that short live yet? That short might not be live yet. I made a short about this, and I made a video about this longer ago. But I made a short about this, about like the idea of like programming being C++ and programming being setting up systems. So kind of like what we do here, right? Like we set up like these functions and this code and all that kind of stuff in C++, like the set speed multiplier, and then realistically we should probably like have implemented this within C++ as well. But then we can use these things in blueprints to just say, hey, do this, then this, then this, then this, in a much more linear way. And that's generally like in a like team composition. What you would have is you would have like your programmers working on the C++ code, and then you would have a team of designers that are busy like actually putting together the game with everything that all the other departments give them, that use everything that the programmers exposed in C++ to build out simpler, more linear blueprint scripting. So it kind of depends. If you ask like the like exact actual amount of function calls that happens within a game, if there's more like C++ ones or blueprint ones, well, the blueprint ones also call C++ functions, so C++. But there's also going to be more instances of blueprint like function calls than C++ because they are more like catered toward very specific situations. And if you have like 1,000 situations in your game, that means that you're going to have 1,000 different like scripted out behaviors, which all adds up to probably being more than the underlying systems, because the underlying systems are there to make that scripting as smooth and as easy as possible. So yeah. Also, if no one is around, how would they know? I mean, that's a good fucking point. That's actually a good point. So, because like if somebody reports it, that means that somebody must be getting bothered by it, right? Unless there is like just a police car driving by and making that a problem. But so, what's the point of having buying an expensive car if not to have fun with it, like they do in the US? That's for my freedom. I mean, it kind of depends on what you mean with fun. Because if you buy an expensive car to like drive real fucking fast, you're like actively endangering other people. And you might say, well, yeah, but if I'm alone on the highway, yeah, but if you're like going like 200 kilometers an hour, the moment you're not alone on the highway anymore, it's gonna be kind of difficult to like pull that back in time to like not demolish somebody. So, like, where does your freedom of enjoyment stop, and where does somebody else's freedom of having a reasonable expectation of safety start? Like, these two things are in a balance, and both should be present. Like, one shouldn't entirely wipe out the other. But like, just because one person wants something doesn't mean that that should be like limitlessly freely available. Because anybody does is going to, in some way, have impact on other people, and that does need to be taken into account. And obviously, if that means that we like set up institutions and systems that then start like wasting their time and resources or being used to like affect people that aren't actually like doing anything wrong, that is an issue. Like, that first and foremost. Like, if you're actually like not doing anything wrong and you're just hanging out with a couple of people and a police car drives by and decides to make it a problem, like, that is like obviously not okay. I have no idea how a game development stream turns into this, man. It's a weird day today. Um, I was doing more bullet types, yes. Fast bullets. Yeah, I feel like the speed of these bullets also should be like super fast, relatively, and then the rate of fire of these should probably be like. Only place where you can truly do that in a way that's safe would be a racetrack, but I don't know anybody that actually goes. I mean, like if we're taking the car thing and like your version of enjoyment is driving fast. I'm not saying that it is because that's like not what we're discussing here, but that's what I'm using as an example. I think it is reasonable to expect somebody to go to a like racetrack to do that instead of doing that on the open road. I mean, I would assume that we like generally all would agree with that being like reasonable, right? Obviously, there's places where there's not necessarily a speed limit. Like German highways don't really have the same like concept of a speed limit. I believe there's a limit at which your car insurance will say, "Hey, we don't cover any damages anymore if we like get you a crash above this speed." But I think that's enforced by the insurer, not by the government. Um, so there's definitely like places that don't have the same concept of like a speed limit, but I personally think that that's also maybe like not a great idea. Do we have like green? Please tell me that we also have like green. Finds out because there's patrols everywhere as if we're in a dictatorship, which is not fun at all. I mean, I can see that, yeah. Um, Flip side is if it does actually like lower your crime rates, you're getting something out of it. But I also would argue that yeah, maybe police could be doing something more productive than stopping people that are doing nothing. Like I don't think that's a good productive use of anybody's time. Obviously, I don't think I have a green version of this. Can I just like make one? That would be nice. Because I'm thinking that I might actually just keep these particle effects as the actual effects that I'll be using because they are quite nice. Um, Please tell me that we have a decent one. I hate when people make effects that aren't like easily editable. Initialize particle. Okay, so that's actually reasonably doable because it's all in inits. Nope, it's not in init here because why the fuck would it be? And here it's in something else. This is what I mean, right? Is just like make your fucking stuff consistent for the love of God. Wanna bet that's it? No, it's not in init here, it's just back in scale color. So why isn't it in scale color in this one? Eh? You wanna explain that to me? Because it kind of feels like it should be. I mean, we're figuring it out, so it's not actually that big a deal. And now it's green. Wouldn't it be so much nicer if we just had like one color that we could edit here? We have an impression in a bad way that money gets freedom. If you can't be in the eye of the authority, you can be free. I mean, it's it's a complicated matter, right? Because to a certain extent, like authority figures are there, ideally, to ensure a like fair and safe life for as many people as possible. In practice, obviously, that doesn't like always work out, and as a matter of fact, like more and more, um, that doesn't work out that way. So like there's like don't blindly just trust in like government authority. Obviously, that's a thing, but it's also like not having that is also not an option, right? Like there needs to be a balance there between accepting that you can't do whatever the fuck you want because it might impact other people, uh, and the system allowing you to like have some like freedom of like movement in your life, what you want to do, and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of the thing, like King T Animation says, is like if it really does lower crime rates, it sucks, but that's kind of worth it, I think. Again, I think that ideally, police like stopping people who aren't doing anything wrong um, should be a separate issue from like actual like crime solving. Ideally, those two things can be talked about separately. But if we like come down to because there is more police and there is more like active policing, so sometimes police get involved where they shouldn't be, but that means that there's very little actual crime. Uh, like the safety of people that are like not getting committed crimes on, that are not getting victimized by crimes, is probably more important than the freedom to like be in a parking lot at 1 a.m. Right? But ideally, again, these two things should not really interact with each other because they can just exist as two separate things entirely. Hmm, where do we have impacts? Impact red. We'll get there. We've been super non-productive today because I keep getting sidetracked talking about bullshit. Um, I don't love the fact that these are like all over the place with how they set their colors, but sure. Like if I were to design this, I probably wouldn't make such like good-looking effects, obviously, because that's not what I'm particularly good at. But these would probably like interpolate between two parameters because all of these are effectively the same. And I don't think the like minor color difference that we had there like actually matters. Like this is effectively the same color, right? It's only fading out the alpha. And it's the same color that we had before as well. So that could just be a parameter that we have here that it interpolates between. This is really kind of annoying. At least here it has like a middle key to kind of like guide like guided gradient, but man. If you intend to travel to Spain and you go to Barcelona, you won't be there for more than a day without something being stolen from you. That I have heard, yeah. But that also kind of tends to happen in most major world like cities, sadly. Like if you come over here to Amsterdam, you're probably not going to be that much better off, in all likelihood. That's just what happens when there's a lot of people on a very small piece of earth. That's just like crime, specifically like small petty crime as well, pops up. Okay, let's test out these other types of bullets, and I think after that we're gonna like just bounce, because we're not getting that much done, and my fucking jaw hurts like a motherfucker. Okay. That's weird. Oh, I haven't compiled them yet, maybe? Did I? They're supposed to be heavy bullets anyway. Yeah, heavy... doesn't make sense. Hold on, what the fuck is happening? Oh, these are red? No, that actually does add up. This is just the wrong color. Okay, these should be yellow. Still doesn't quite add up the fact that they were going so fast, because their rate of fire should be 0.7, so it's every 0.7 seconds. Which gets divided by a value of, by default, 1. So that doesn't add up at all. Our rate of fire multiplier is still 5. Okay, never mind, I figured it out. Ah, prepare on shaders. Okay, there we go. You see, I actually think that just keeping with these particles is kind of fun. You can see how easily I can make these like new colors, and I can make like a purple version, and then maybe like a cyan version. And I think that'll save me a lot of headaches trying to like make my own. So yeah, that one works. Then we go over to fast bullets. I can't wait until I'm starting. That's not what that says at all. Don't you arrest people there for social media posts? I mean, where? I mean, I'm sure that has happened. But I'm sure that's happened in most places at this point. Because social media posts... It kind of depends, right? Whether or not that makes sense. Yeah, okay, I'm going to be real here. The whole they don't show it on the media's control nowadays. People take what they see on social media is like kind of like a flawed take. Because unless you make like very specific care to like verify what you see on social media, you should not be getting your primary information from social media. You also should try to verify what you get from like mainstream news sources, to be like very clear, if it's like important stuff. And generally just getting your information from multiple sources and seeing where they like overlap make sense to do, but I don't know about that take. But as far as like arresting people for like social media posts, I mean, again, I'm not saying that it's perfect here at all. I've seen people like get police visits because they were at like demonstrations and that kind of stuff, and that's just highly fucked up. Like, that's not how that should work at all. And like, definitely, sometimes there's like some level of police intimidation based on social media activity, but there's also sometimes like reasonable actual reasons to like take action based on a social media post. Like the fact that it's just a social media post doesn't mean that you can like do anything you want. If you want to sell something on social media, you just need to control the masses, and that's 40% of the work done. By followers, views, likes, and people will believe what you say. Yeah, exactly. So you need to like verify everything that you see on social media, and make sure that you like have your trusted sources, and try to like not make those trusted sources then still your only source of information to like bias yourself with, obviously. Like getting a fair view on anything that's somewhat accurate to what might be like the actual state of things is a lot of hard work. Like journalism is like a hell of a job. And when I say journalism, I don't mean reaction YouTubers that like then have opinions on stuff. Matter of fact, I don't even mean literally anything I say, because I did have some journalism classes in college, but like not super deep. Just enough to know that most people are not doing their due diligence. Like at all. For legal reasons. No, just for like, don't listen too much to like what I have to say about like literally anything, because aside from like maybe program related stuff, obviously. But even then, getting like a different point of view on things can be like good and healthy. But if we're talking about like world affairs and that kind of stuff, or like news, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I have like opinions that are hopefully decently informed by like information and data, but I'm not like a journalist. So like take actual like information, actual data from like actual journalism, not from me. Listen to me when I tell you that casting in Unreal Engine is probably okay if you're not abusing it. That's when you should listen to me. Don't listen to me when I tell you anything about literally anything else. Aside from maybe general like information gathering practices like we're talking about right now. But even then, the only thing that you should listen to me about that is to go seek out like actual journalists who actually have like good advice on that. Trust reliable sources, such as that the government controls newspapers and television channels. Yeah, but that's like, I'm going to be real with you. Like, obviously, stay vigilant on that, but that is like edging up real close against like conspiracy shit. Because, like, if that's the case, obviously there's not a reliable source there. And I'm not that necessarily even saying that reliable sources have to be like state media, because obviously not. But the fact that we're like taking it immediately in that direction also is like quite telling in some way, right? What is the alternative for casting? I mean, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Mostly. Blueprint interfaces, or interfaces in general, but if we're talking about like Unreal, you're probably doing it in Blueprint. Like interface calls are a good alternative to like run some piece of code on some other actor without needing to cast. That's probably the most important one. If you're like checking a specific, like at this begin overlap, right? What a lot of people do is doing this like twin-stick player thing. What you can do instead in the most modern versions of Unreal is you can do is a soft, and that is a node specifically meant to like compare on whether or not something is a specific type of class, without having the downside of like memory footprint that casting comes with. You can make your own. You can like get class from that. Actually, maybe it's not that easy. Hold on. You could still make your own, just you would get a soft object class from this somehow, or whatever. This exists in Unreal 5.5. So that's a nice alternative if you're just trying to like compare, hey, is this object that we're interacting with this type of object without needing to cast? And aside from that, yeah, Blueprint interfaces. Like I have a video on it if you're curious. Unity versus Unreal Engine. Let's get actually controversial. Yeah, no, I know. I don't care. Use what you want to use. I like using Unreal, but normal for you to say that it might be paranoia or I'll let it go too lightly, but the truth is that when you experience it. Look, I'm not telling you how your lived experience is, because I don't know what it's like in Spain. I'm just saying that like a lot of the talking points that I'm seeing here generally set off some like conspiracy red flags, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're untrue. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm not like seeing a lot of like open-minded leeway here. And let's leave it at that. Because like in basic like conversation, like everything you say is hard to disagree with, right? Like all of this, like being in a vacant lot at 1 a.m. and the police rolls up on you and that kind of stuff. But obviously, like that's hard to disagree with, because yeah, that sucks. But I also think that a lot of like what we've had in the conversations over the past like 2 hours kind of like seems like a very like unnuanced and like limited view on things without like a broader perspective. But anyway, I think we're going to call it here, because I made like 5 power-ups today, and that's kind of it, and I reworked some code. I didn't do anything, but I kind of expected to not be doing a lot of stuff. Thursday we'll be back with more of the streaming. And we'll actually, I think, start like building a basic like level layout for it within like the actual like game world instead of this test level. I think that'll be a good thing, and then we'll eventually run into stuff that we need to like fix up or add, because I didn't think this through at all. I just thought I want a twin-stick shooter element in this part of the game, and then I just kind of started making it without like first thinking through like the design philosophy behind literally anything, so we're going to figure it out. But yeah, I'm going to end the stream now, and I will see you all back at a button that deletes Spain altogether. I mean, I don't want to do that because Spain has a lot of people in it, and people can like buy my game. So I want Spanish people to also buy my game and watch my stuff. And hell, I mean, the whole thing started with me hating on America. I still want American people to buy my game and watch my stuff. Like, nothing against like any individual person in any country. Hell, I don't even like have anything. If anybody in North Korea is watching this, please wishlist my game. I don't. I don't hate you, North Korean people. I dislike your government, maybe, yes. I would say Russian people also, please wishlist my game, but I don't even know if that's like actually possible with the state of how things are like between Europe and Russia at the moment. Might not even physically be able to buy it on Steam when it releases. So hopefully that entire situation is sorted out by the time this releases, because there's going to be a couple more years at this pace. Anyway, I'm going to head out.